Lunch, Karma, and a Dallas Cowboy. I'm Nick Redwine, but to our family, I'm G-Dad. For more than 30 years, Grandma Debbie and I own Nick's sports cards. Along the way, we met Hall of Famers, celebrities, and thousands of everyday people who became part of our lives. These stories aren't really about sports cards. They're about the people we met, the things that happened, the mistakes we made, the lessons we learned, and the life Grandma Debbie and I built together. We're telling them so our grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and anyone who comes after us will always have a way to know us. Because every life has stories worth remembering. This is story number 1, Lunch, Karma, and a Dallas Cowboy. Owning a sports card store meant Debbie and I met some fascinating people. Debbie remembered everyone's name. I remembered what they did for a living. Together, we made a pretty good team. One of our regular customers was a young man whose father happened to be a professional golfer. Over time, we got to know the entire family. They weren't just customers, they were the kind of people you genuinely look forward to seeing walk through the door. Warm, polite, easy to talk to. Every visit felt less like a transaction and more like catching up with friends. One day, the golfer called me with a strange request. He had a lunch scheduled at Preston Trail Golf Club in Dallas, followed by a golf lesson. But he was running late. "Nick, could you sit with him until I get there?" I said, "Not a problem." "Who is it?" Instead of answering, he started giving me rules. "Don't talk about football." "Fine. I wouldn't talk about football." "And don't ask him for an autograph." "Not a problem." I rarely asked athletes for autographs. Owning a sports card store made that awkward. The last thing I wanted was to look like I was chasing free signatures to resell. Most autograph collectors were good people. But there was another group, autograph vultures, adults who chased athletes through airports, hotels, restaurants, even parking lots. Aggressive, rude, relentless. They gave the entire hobby a bad name. One of the most famous stories involved Nolan Ryan. He was generous with fans, but even he had limits. Legend says a man with a broken leg walked up to Ryan's family at a Black-Eyed Pea restaurant, lifted his cast, set it right on their dinner table, and asked him to sign it. "You can't fix that kind of stupid." So I understood why my golfer friend was nervous. Finally, he told me who I'd be having lunch with. "It's Emmitt Smith." Well, that explained the rules. A funny side story about my professional golfer friend. He was in a pro-am with a professional golfer and a celebrity, and someone who would pay $2,000 to play golf with both of them. However, my friend was not from the United States and was unfamiliar with our professional sports. The four in my friend's group introduced themselves to each other. The celebrity introduced himself as Joe DiMaggio. My friend asked Joe, "What do you do?" Joe said, "I sell coffee." I arrived early the next day. At least I thought I was early. Emmitt was already sitting alone at a table. There's simply no graceful way to approach Emmitt Smith and explain, "Your golf instructor is running late, and he asked me to sit with you until he arrives." It's the sort of introduction that sounds odd even when you say it with a smile. But Emmitt couldn't have been more gracious. He invited me to sit down and join him for lunch. I made a point not to mention the store. I didn't want him thinking I wanted an appearance, a signing, or anything that involved money. So we talked about normal things. Turns out we shared 2 hobbies, model trains and aquariums. I had a train layout and a saltwater tank. Suddenly, we weren't a famous running back and a nervous store owner. We were just 2 guys talking about fish and train engines. Then I said something that stopped him cold. "I know your mother's." He looked at me like I'd lost my mind. That's when I finally admitted I own Nick's sports cards. His whole expression changed. "You're Nick from Nick's sports cards." I nodded. "That's me." During the 1990s, Emmitt's parents ran a sports memorabilia business in Florida. We bought autographed Emmitt Smith items from his mother regularly. One day, Debbie ordered an autographed Florida Gators mini helmet. When the box arrived, there were 2 helmets inside. We had only paid for one. We didn't wait for her to notice. We immediately packed the extra helmet and shipped it back. A few days later, Emmitt's mother called. Was something wrong with the helmet? Debbie said no, it was perfect. You accidentally sent 2, so we returned the extra one, Mrs. Smith was shocked. She said she probably never would have discovered the mistake. But Debbie and I had a rule: we would never knowingly do anything dishonest. Not for a sale, not for a customer, not for an athlete, and definitely not for a free autographed helmet. A few weeks later, a package arrived. Inside were 5 autographed photos from Emmitt and a handwritten note from his mother thanking us for our honesty. We didn't return the helmet expecting anything. We returned it because it was the right thing to do. That simple act created a relationship built on trust. Talk about karma. By the end of lunch, our golfer friend was due to arrive. Before we left, I decided to ask one football question. I had followed almost all the rules, no autograph request, no Cowboys talk, but I was sitting across from Emmitt Smith. I had to ask something. I started after playing football in college and in the NFL. Emmitt cut me off instantly. Philadelphia. I left. How did you know what I was going to ask? He said, everyone asks where the toughest place is to play. Then he added, without question, it's Philadelphia. And you don't take your helmet off when you come out of the locker room. Philadelphia fans are passionate, loud, creative. And occasionally they throw things. They even threw snowballs at Santa Claus in 1968. Only in Philadelphia. Dad's wisdom: do the right thing, even when no one is watching. Character isn't built by one big decision. It's built by hundreds of small ones no one ever sees. Debbie and I didn't return that extra helmet for a reward. We returned it because it was the right thing to do. Years later, that simple act came back to us in a way we never expected. Integrity opens doors, selfishness never will. Thanks for spending a little time with Grandma Debbie and Dad. In story number 2, Waiting for Him to Poop, you'll meet one of the funniest customers who ever walked into Nick's Sports Cards. Trust me, you won't see the ending coming. Until next time, take care of one another. Do the right thing. And remember, every life has a story worth telling.